town of Ystrogunlais. It's hard to say, but easy to love. And it lies in the Swansea Valley, a bleak, bountiful, beautiful place where the sun only shines for an hour a day, and then at the height of midsummer. And 200 years ago, this very night, two brothers sat in the New Inn with murder on their mind. Now, the New Inn was never new. Even when it was first built, the water would run down its walls, its doors hang off its hinges, and its clientele were as bleak as the night this story takes place. The brothers were called Iago and Gronwy, and they were wreckers. Now, if you don't know what wreckers are, wreckers would stand on the Gower cliffs with their lanterns held high, causing ships to flounder upon the rocks. Then they would rush out and kill any sailors and take all the treasure they could find. And Iago and Gronwy had made and lost more fortunes than anyone through doing exactly this. Iago was tall and thin. He always wore a tricorn hat, a long coat, and his hair hung dank to his shoulders. And he talked in a voice like this. His brother Gronwy was big and fat, with a great big black beard, and always carried a blunderbuss gun. And he talked in a voice like this. Now, 200 years ago this very night, they sat by the spluttering fireplace in the New Inn, and Iago began to speak. Well, you see, my brother, it's like this. There's a coach that makes its way up the valley, making its winding, twisting way through all the villages, Abercrave, all the way up to Penwyllt. A coach so full of gold. They say if you open the doors, the coins will run like a river. It's on its way to Brecon. You know Brecon, where all the soldiers are based. It's there to pay their bills. Well, how do you know that? A shepherd told me. So what we have to do is we go to Penwyllt. You know Penwyllt, there's an old oak tree that hangs over the road. We wait for the coach. And then when I see its lights, I'll give you the cry, like the cry of an owl. Ooh, 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 ooh. You stand in front of the road with your gun, stand and deliver, and before we know it, we're away from you. We're the richest men in Wales. All right, but if you got this wrong, we'll never work together again. You know that, don't you? Iago and Gronwy left the New Inn, their drinks half drunk. Outside was their cart, an old rickety thing, pulled by a black horse called Shadow. She was so thin you could see her ribs. And they made their way out of Ystrogunlais, up to Abercrave, until at last they came to Penwyllt. The valley is so narrow you feel like you could touch either side, and just as Iago said, there is that old claw-like hooked tree that stands over the road. Iago scampered up the tree like a squirrel. Gronwy called up to him, "When you see the coach, call me." And there, nestled under a bush, he went to sleep. Iago waited as night fell even darker. The time between times came and went, and far away he could hear the church bells in Ystrogunlais ringing. He was just about to give up all hope, when suddenly he saw the lights. 1 light, 2 lights, 5 lights, 50 lights. And these lights were not high like the lights of a coach. Oh no, these lights were low to the ground. And Iago's black heart started to beat as if it would burst from his chest as he realized that each of these lights was being carried by one of the Tylwyth Teg. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Tylwyth Teg are the Welsh fairies. Some of them are grotesque, ugly-looking goblins that shuffle and shake their way up the roads. Others are beautiful fairy-like creatures that dance and prance under the moonlight. But each of them carrying a gold coin, hundreds of them, passed along the path under where Iago clung on for his very life. Look, the Tylwyth Teg! Every one of them's got a coin, fairy gold. Where can they be going? They passed under the tree, and there they stopped at the entrance to an old cave in an old ruin, done by the old men of Rome that passed this way centuries before. Each of them stopped at the cave, looked inside and cupped their hands over their mouth and called out, "Gallwch! Gallwch!" There's a password. They have a password to get in that cave. The Tylwyth Teg are hiding their gold in that cavern. And I know the password. Ha 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 ha! Iago watched as moments later the Tylwyth Teg appeared one by one from the cavern and started to disappear into the valley, vanishing in the mist and moonlight. Summoning all his courage, he clambered down from the tree. "I just go and wake him." Do you know what? I don't need to wake him, do I? Let him sleep. Listen, I can hear him snoring. Iago walked over to the cavern entrance and peered in. It's dark in there, mind. Proper dark. Oh. Placed his hand inside, and it vanished. "Gallwch! Gallwch!" he called, and ducked underneath and vanished inside. He made his way down and to the left, back and to the right, over stalagmite, under stalactite, or is it the other way around, until he felt like he would come out into the middle of the earth itself. When he was just about to give up and return, for the cavern was coming so narrow, he appeared in a room just like the one you're in now. But all around the walls there were great iron hooks, and from those iron hooks hung sacks, and from those sacks ran rivers of gold. Iago stepped into the gold coins up to his knees and started to dance and prance and cheer under the mountain itself. "Look at this! I am the richest man in Wales. I am the richest man anyone's ever seen. Will you look at this?" He started to fill his pockets, fill his coat, fill under his hat. But then something happened he did not expect. What he thought was just a pile of rags in the corner of the room started to shuffle and shake. What he thought was just some detritus there on the floor suddenly stood up, and the rags fell away, revealing the skull of a horse. The skull of a horse with glowing green eyes. And at the moment Iago knew he was doomed, for he was looking into the eyes of the Mari Lwyd, the queen of the fairies, the first horse that winter killed. The Mari opened her mouth and spoke in a voice as old as the mountains and as capricious as the sea. "What do you want from me, thief?" "Oh, oh, oh, I'm not a thief. I'm not a thief. Oh, Mari Lwyd, Mari Lwyd, please, please, let me go. Let me go. I'm not a thief. Look, I know the password. The password is Gallwch, Gallwch, Gallwch." "You know the password to come in. But do you know the password to leave?" "You mean there's a password to leave? Oh, Mari Lwyd, I beg you. Please let me go. Let me go, Mari Lwyd, please." Iago must have caught the Mari Lwyd on a good night, for she motioned for him to go. "Go! But know this, the next mortal that comes here, the next mortal that enters my lair, remains forever, forever." Her words echoed in the cavern as Iago scampered into the cave, making his way up and to the left, back and to the right, over stalagmite, under stalactite, or is it the other way around, until he burst out into the trees above Swansea Port and would have run all the way to the sea, had a figure not stepped in front of him, a figure with a gun. "Where do you think you're going, brother? Where do you think you're going? Oh, Gronwy, we've got to go from here. You left me sleep there, didn't you? You've robbed the coach." "I haven't robbed the coach." But then fate, as it often does, intervened, and as Iago lifted his hands, a single gold coin fell from his pocket and landed on the floor with a clang. "If you haven't robbed the coach, what's that?"
"Oh, brother, all right, yeah, I did rob the coach. You were sleeping and I thought I'd leave you, but I put all the gold in a cave over there. There's a password, mind. It's Gallwch. Just make your way down and to the left, back and to the right. You'll find the gold, and you can keep the gold."
And with that, Iago was gone, never seen in the Swansea Valley ever again. Gronwy made his way to the cave entrance and peered into the darkness. "It's dark in there, mind." But summoning all his courage, he leant his blunderbuss against the cavern entrance, took a deep breath, and disappeared into the cave, and was never seen again. A few weeks later, a traveller passing by found the blunderbuss gun, took it back to the new inn, where it was put above the fireplace. As for Gronwy, well, years later, the famed opera singer Adelina Patti, with the voice of an angel, came to the Swansea Valley and wanted to build a castle so fine that its towers would stretch to the sky. And the workmen started building. But as they started digging deep under the ground, they found that cavern. But there was no gold, just the hooks. From one of the hooks hung a single human skull. The workman took the skull, took it back to his camp. But at night, when darkness fell, the skull started to scream and scream. So the workman put it in a bag, rode on his horse all the way down to Swansea Museum with its great Greek facade, and hammered on the door. And the curator took the skull down the stairs to the deepest vault and hid it there. But every night after the museum closed, the skull would scream and scream, until they took it on a boat far out to sea and dropped it beneath the waves. And only then was it silent. But it said, if you go to the Swansea Valley, the place where the sun only shines for an hour a day, at the time between times, and listen to the ground, you can still hear it, deep under there, the cries of a man shouting, "Gallwch, Gallwch." And that, my friends, is the tale of the Robbers of Penwyllt, told by me, Owen Staton, the Welsh storyteller. For you, no star, my friends. Good night.